Hello, folks. Welcome to Intoxicated Intellect. I'm Justin. I've got Jack with me today. I've got Ben with me today. I've got Brady with me today. Uh, we're going to be talking about the Barbarian subclasses. We're going to be throwing them in a tier list. Uh, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're sure you're probably going to disagree with us. Uh, be sure to tell us. It's always fun. Just be sure to interact. Let us know what kind of content you like to see. Brady, where are we starting with the barbarian subclasses?
So, with the first subclass we're going to go over is the Path of the Ancestral Guardian. But before we get into any of the subclasses, I just want to remind our audience what the base Barbarian can do and what these subclasses are supposed to be building off of. So, to start, your Barbarians get 1d12 plus your Con mod as your HP, proficient light armor, medium armor, shields, simple weapons, and martial weapons. You get the ability to rage, which then makes you resistant to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage from non-magical items. Your unarmored defense, which is 10 plus your dex plus your con for your AC. Your danger sense, where you get advantage on dex saving throws that you can see, such as spells and traps. The reckless attack, which gives you advantage on attacks that you're making, but then all opponents have advantage on attacks against you for that till the start of your next turn. Then, of course, you get your ASIs at 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th levels. At 5th level, you get a second attack, as well as increasing your movement speed by 10 feet while you aren't wearing heavy armor. 7th level, you get your Feral Instincts. You have advantage on initiative rolls starting at then, as well as your Instinctive Pounce. As part of a bonus action you take to enter your rage, you can then move up to half your speed. The 9th level is the Brutal Critical, where you add an additional damage die on a critical hit and then double that one as well, and that increases to 2 additional die at 13th and a 3rd additional die at 17th. Your Relentless Rage at 11th level, meaning you can keep your rage fighting despite grievous wounds. If you drop to 0 hit points while you're raging and don't die outright, you can make a DC 10 con saving throw, and if you succeed, you drop to 1 hit point instead. You can use this feature as many times as you want, but every time after that first time, the DC increases by 5, and then when you finish a short or long rest, it resets to the 10. At 15th level, you get your Persistent Rage, where your rage is so fierce that it ends early only if you fall unconscious or if you choose to end it. At 18th level, you get your Indomitable Might. If your total strength check is less than what your strength score is, you can choose to just use your strength score instead of the dice roll. And at 20th level, you get your Primal Champion, where your strength and con scores both increase by 4, and your max for those two stats is now 24. So that is what the base Barbarian class is, and what we're seeing here today is how each of the subclasses enhance what the main roles of the Barbarian are, which is tank and damage output.
Yep.
For sure.
And I'll go ahead and start with Ancestral, give you a little bit of a break, Brady. That's a lot of reading to go through there.
Appreciate it.
That's good stuff.
The Ancestral Guardian at its base is your tank. Start straight off at level 3 with Ancestral Protectors. The first target you hit on every turn, that target has disadvantage on attack rolls against any other creature other than you until the start of your next turn. If it does attack another creature and it hits, that creature has resistance to whatever damage type it's being sent at.
That's
immediately
pulling that act. Yeah.
That is saying attack me or you're not going to do what you should do.
Pretty much. And then at 6th level, you get Spirit Shield. So when a creature within 30 feet of you gets hit, you can use your reaction to reduce that by 2d6. At 10th and at 14th level, that increases by 1d6 respectively for a total of 4d6 once you get your capstone at level 14. Another very useful, keep your teammates alive. Then at level 10, you get a very different kind of subclass ability with Consult the Spirits.
Yeah, this one's fascinating.
Yeah. Essentially, it gives you access to the Augury or the Clairvoyance spell. Without material opponents, it's Wisdom as your spellcasting mod, which is a little strange for Barbarian since you'll be primarily building into your more physical traits. Right. And I'll be the first to mention, I have never cast Clairvoyance once in my life. I don't entirely know what it does.
It lets you see the outcome of a future event, and your DM has to be honest in their answer.
Got it. Okay. Wow. Okay, that's a fuck you DM roll.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. And then
Pretty much. I'll agree with that.
Unless the DM itself doesn't know.
right. And then at 14th level for the capstone with this, Vengeful Ancestors. So when your spirit shield reduces the damage of an attack, so when you spend your reaction to do that, whatever the amount of the attack that you reduce is immediately dealt back to the attacker as force damage.
Which is cool.
Which is, again, force damage is the one that least monsters or other creatures have resistance to pretty much ever. So you're dealing full damage
Pretty
on
cool.
that most of the time.
So, reading through all this, I mean, Ancestral Guardian Barb is tank.
That's cool. There's a few, subclass features in there that don't really mean much, aren't very helpful.
Such
they're
as?
cool, but like the clairvoyance spell.
I mean, it's just get
out of here.
You're not gonna have that much wisdom, but it's one of those things where it doesn't cost you anything to throw it.
It's also just one
so
of those
eventually
things
you're
where
gonna
it's
get
like,
lucky.
Okay, cool. Like, all right.
It's
like it doesn't.
But if you're playing
the class in any way.
But if I will say if you're playing in a campaign where your DM does require the cost of material components plus the price that it consumes, then that can be very powerful because those spells do cost a lot to cast.
In addition to that, from a role play perspective, because this is a role playing game, from a role play perspective, you are consulting your ancestor spirits. This is the barb that comes from a long line of warriors. They're chieftains, they're whatever in front of them, all like respect this.
Yeah,
this
I
is your
really
avatar.
like.
This is
I
your
really
avatar.
like the role playing aspects of this one. I
Yes.
like the fact that it throws that in there to encourage a barbarian that doesn't have wisdom as his total dump stat, that still tries to think about the way what's come before him, what he needs to do now, and how he can best honor the ones that came before. I like that it builds that into it.
And if you're building into wisdom to help with that, then you're going to be more effective on all those wisdom saves you're probably going to have to make as a tank.
Right, which means that you're going to be on your team more often than not.
Yes.
I also
but
like
again,
kind of the crowd control on this one.
Like I said, the crowd control is cool, but again, just in terms of class features, that class feature doesn't change the class.
I think
it doesn't augment the roles for the class.
I think that class feature changes it dramatically, honestly.
Is it it helps being a tank and a damage dealer?
No, but it helps you determine how.
That's what I'm
it
talking
helps
about.
you to determine.
It doesn't help
courses
you
of
in the
action
main
because guess
roles for a barbarian. It doesn't help you in anything.
Okay, not everything has.
I'm saying that's one of our criteria.
I know that's one of our criteria, but it also one of our criteria is its role play ability because this is once again TTRPG.
Yes,
This
I
is
know.
an
And I would
RPG?
say in terms
What?
of in terms of its roleplay potential, I wouldn't say it's an insane roleplay.
I'm not saying it's an insane thing. It's just a nice little touch to what the Ancestral Guardian Barbarian can be.
And you get that 14?
No, you
10.
get that at 10th.
All right, I would rather something else for my 10th level.
Well, once again, you care only about combat. So
fair.
Well, here. All right, so I'll go first. I think that this subclass has a lot to offer in terms of like how it can take your typical one-dimensional barb in a slightly different direction. Maybe you can work a little closer with the druid, and you can both charge into battle together as the bear and the guardian. I really like that aspect. Yeah. There are things I think that some of the abilities could be better.
okay.
I do think that while Consult the Spirits is great for roleplay,
It's not super
Maybe-
strong mechanically for what a barbarian is. That's
Right.
fair. But it's free to cast, which is the thing, so you can just spam that shit.
right, and I love the crowd control and just like look at me, attack me kind of thing.
Yes, but the whole
But
thing
it doesn't give you anything other than that.
If I was a DM, I would limit the use of using clairvoyance because that can become game breaking.
It could be game breaking, but then why I wouldn't play
could.
Ancestral
Right,
Guardian
because
Barbarian if
the-
you're gonna limit how many times I can do
Consult the
that.
Spirit
because it
specifically
already
says
said
you get it back on a short rest.
Yeah,
Short
short
rest.
and
It's
long rest.
it's meant
Yeah.
to be used a lot.
Okay,
Yeah, that is
I
the
thought there
intention.
was like, you could just use it whenever. Like,
No, it's you get it once per short or long rest.
Alright.
So it's meant to be spammed,
Alright,
but you
so-
can't spam it left and fucking right.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I
Right.
didn't hear the short rest.
Yeah. And I may
So,
not have mentioned that when I read through it, so that could be on me. I'll be
Nah, I
honest.
You get
think
to choose
it-
clairvoyance or augury. It's not one or the other. You get to choose each.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
Um,
so where are we putting?
So I like all of it. I just think that the Spirit Shield and what the core feature of this class does is a little underpowered for it being your subclass. I mean, granted, your bread and butter damage is going to come from physical output, but
Right.
I just think the Spirit Shield could offer a little bit more than 46 at 14th level.
Well, see
Well, you also got to remember
that's where I want-
46.
And
Yeah,
also,
is
the
pretty significant.
advantage of that comes in with that. That's just like icing on top of the cake. The main
It's
thing you're looking
force
at this
damage.
is if you attack it, it can only attack you without disadvantage, right?
right.
That's
Without
fucking
disadvantage, and if it
loco.
hits, anything else, that creature then has resistance to it.
That is
So if this is a
loco.
creature that you hit, Justin, it's dealing reduced damage. Then you further reduce that by another 4d6. So you're
I'm
at
still not
Yeah.
knocking this too
So
much, guys.
what-
I'm going to give it an A.
Yeah. So
I think this is an A
Mhm.
tier class because I think it can be played well, and I think it does
Mhm.
play into an aspect of the Barbarian that is a little
Gets
bit untouched
sloppy,
from a
yeah.
role play perspective.
See,
And I like the
I-
bread and butter on top, like
I
just
think
slathering some jam
what,
on that damage you're doing.
what makes this class really cool is when you pair it with a second tank.
Yeah.
You pair it with a second health tank. Health tank, not AC tank. Health.
Yeah. It's very, very fair qualifier.
Right.
Uh,
A soaker.
It becomes insane. Like you pair it with the Circle of the Moon Drew with the bear form, mammoth form,
Yeah.
Antonio, fucking that shit gets insane. You already have like you're a Circle of the Moon Drew with access of 700 health with all your transformations, and then your health, and then your healing ability.
And then you're
Yeah.
telling
Then
me
add
the
that on to
barbarian's
being
gonna
able
double
getting
that to
attacked at
1400.
disadvantage, and
Yeah.
then getting disadvantage on when the people attack you, and then all that other stuff. That's cool. That's awesome.
That's
So for
super.
that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it an A because I also
Yeah.
know I'm gonna rank it among all the other ones.
Yeah. I would also give this one an A, honestly, and I really like that force damage output at level 14. It's a good, like,
Insurance.
yeah, it's a good insurance that you're still
Hitting
going to be
something.
dealing damage. And
Yeah.
46 is not insignificant when it comes to force damage, because
46
that's
is a
all
lot.
getting hit. Yeah.
46 is a good amount of force damage.
Well, the Vengeful Ancestors doesn't cap at 46. The Vengeful Ancestors is when you use your Spirit Shield to reduce the damage of an attack, the attacker
Takes the amount of force damage equal to whatever your Spirit Shield prevents. Your Spirit Shield maxes out at 46.
Gotcha. Okay, I misread that slightly, but yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you are right.
Brady, what are you ranking it?
I'm gonna give it an A. It does
Yeah.
the job of a barbarian extremely well.
Yeah.
All right.
As far as your tank, I like the roleplay aspect of it. This will be a fun one to play. This is the kind of barb I want to play.
It's unanimous, or is it? Tell us more.
Yeah.
For now, let's move on to the Battle Rager.
Yes. And I think we should
the
also
big-
maybe talk about each class feature as we go through. Maybe we should so we get a little bit on everything.
Yeah.
Fair.
So I'll take this one.
All right.
Go for it. Caveat to this one right off the
Restriction.
bat.
Restriction, and this is going to be a big talking point. Dwarves only. Only dwarves can follow the path of the Battle Rager.
I don't know.
Unless it does say unless your DM changes it, because
Unless
DM
your
has final
DM
say.
changes it, because the DM can change anything like that. Just
And it
talk to
also
him.
says that the restriction only applies in the Forgotten Realms.
Right, but it
or-
might not apply to your DM setting or your DM's version of the realms.
Yeah. So
So you could also just change the Marvel universe, so to speak. It's like, oh, not in this one. That didn't happen in
Yeah.
this timeline. Big feature, Battle Rager armor. You get to use spiked armor as a weapon. While you're wearing it and raging, you can use a bonus action to make a melee weapon attack with the armor spikes against a target within 5 feet. So real close. If it hits, it's
Yep.
1d4 piercing damage, and you use your strength modifier for the attack and damage rolls. So if you're leaning in to really
I've got an issue
just-
with that right away.
I did.
The Barbarian's AC comes from unarmored defense.
I
That is
would
Dex,
Right.
assume
or
that this
Dex and
didn't
Con.
change that.
That you're immediately
Now you're having to
limiting-
build into strength for this subclass.
Yeah, and you're maxed out at whatever the spiked armor you're wearing has.
spiked
as its
armor
AC.
is medium armor, AC 14 plus Dex with a maximum of 2. Disadvantage on stealth.
So you're maxing out at 16, and now you also are gaining disadvantage on stealth. Whereas a normal barbarian wouldn't have that disadvantage on their stealth checks because they just
And,
wouldn't be wearing armor.
Right.
And as you see in D&D, usually the most powerful abilities of the subclasses is the first one you get.
Right.
Because the rest of them
It's
just
your-
build off
it's
of
your-
that.
Right.
Everything
Yeah.
goes off of that, and I think one of the only exceptions is if you're a zealot barb, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I think
So
this puts
if you
it's a big hit.
if you grapple, it's 3.
Yeah.
just three
It's also
piercing
so
damage.
small
It's
of a
also-
damage.
Yeah.
It's so not worth it. It's
Mhm.
such a shit.
So let's
it's
roll
terrible.
through the rest so we can see how not worth it is.
Yeah.
Right? Because this one looks like it's falling off big time.
Oh, yeah.
At 6th
Fell off
level,
already.
when you use reckless attack, you gain temporary hit points equal to your con modifier. They vanish
5.
if they're left when your rage ends. This is
Gotcha.
not bad.
Cool.
Temporary
5 to
hit
6.
points are also cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
you-
it's 5 to 6 per what?
5 to
Like,
6
rounds?
at high levels.
You're looking at 4
Yeah.
or
Right.
5. You're not going to have a con modifier much higher than 5. unless
Well,
you're
I'm
wearing
saying
yeah,
unless you
items.
get like the
Unless
get
you
your,
find, like, a magical item or
weapons,
something.
and again,
Yeah.
6 is even pushing high levels. That's shit. That is a
That's still
terrible.
only 6
Yeah.
health. Yeah.
That's
It's 6
terrible.
health around. You're guaranteed to take more than that around as a tank.
Oh yeah,
Right. So
You're probably
like
gonna do that much damage yourself.
Especially now that you're giving them advantage on the attacks against you because you're forced to use reckless to gain that ability.
Mhm.
Yeah.
at 10th level, you get to dash as a bonus action.
Which
That's it.
ultimately useless
Who gives
because
a
when
shit?
one of the, if I remember right, one of the basic barbarian things was when you enter a range, you can dash rage. You can dash as part of that.
Who cares?
Wasn't it like
that's
your-
all, I
Is
think
at-
it's
at,
also
whatever.
at
like
7th
dwarf.
level, you have the optional ability of instinctive pounce as every single barbarian, where as part of the bonus action you take to enter your rage, you can move up to half your speed.
Yeah. So who gives a flying fuck about this?
Right. Then at 14th level, let's see what it could do. When a creature's 5 feet of you hits you with a melee attack,
Oh, no.
they get 3 piercing damage if you're raging, aren't capacitated, and are wearing spiked armor.
Who gives
So that's a whole
terrible.
other
Move
3
on.
piercing
Wow,
damage.
3-4
So,
damage.
I just want to point out over the course of these, you proc every single one of these abilities. You're getting at maximum 10 extra points of damage, 13 if it's a grapple.
And then you're losing out on a ton of health because your AC sucks.
Yeah.
and you're only gaining 6 temporary hit points around, and probably losing minimum of 9 even at low levels.
Around.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
go first
More
again.
than
This
that.
one's easy. All right.
I think it's easy for all of us. You
Yeah.
want to just go count it down 1, 2, 3?
3.
All right.
What's
3,
the
2, 1.
lowest?
It's the lowest F
3,
tier we've
Yeah,
got.
it's F.
2,
yeah.
1, F.
F.
Everyone.
It's F
Put
tier.
it down there.
It's-
Move on.
Save yourself the argument
yeah.
with the dwarves only. Don't even bother
Who
with
gives a
it.
Yeah.
shit? You don't never
The
pick it.
only,
It's terrible.
the only like saving grace of this is if you're
Mhm.
playing a throwaway character that's supposed to die in 30 seconds. That's just supposed to be chaotic as shit, running around with spiked armor. This is the only.
I
That is the
think
only
of
reasonable or
normal barbarian
any,
would be better at
like-
that.
This is your friend
mean-
came in from out of town and wants to join in on the session.
yeah.
That's the
and he
class.
just wants to fuck with shit.
If someone
Like,
rolls
that's
up
it.
to your table playing this class, like, well, he fucking sucks.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
this is
Done
no
so much better.
There's not a single good way to play this class.
Fucking
Don't
terrible.
waste your time.
All right, I'll
Don't
go,
waste
I'll go
your
over
time.
the next one with Path of the Beast.
Mm.
So starting at 3rd level, you get your Form of the Beast. When you choose this and you enter your rage, you can transform, revealing the bestial power within you. Until your rage ends, you manifest a natural weapon. It counts as a simple melee weapon for you, and you add your strength mod to the attack and damage rolls when you attack with it as normal. So that's good. You get to add your strength to not only the attack, but also the damage. So you're not losing anything if you were to use another weapon. You get 3 options. Your bite attack, your claw attack, or your tail attack. The bite deals 1d8 piercing on a hit on each of your turns when you damage a creature with this bite. You do regain a number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus, provided you have less than half your hit points left when you hit. With the
Important
claws, it deals 1d6 slashing, and then once on each of your turns when you attack with a claw using your attack action, you can make 1 additional claw attack as part of the same action. So it's giving you a free attack right off the bat at level 3, which is nice because not a lot of.
So then you get 3 attacks at level 5, or you get
Yes.
4 attacks at level 5.
You would get 3.
Okay,
Because it says once per turn.
got it.
And then your third option is your tail. It's 1d8 piercing on a hit, and it has the reach property. And if a creature you can see within 10 feet of you hits you with an attack roll, you get to use your reaction to swipe your tail and roll a d8, applying whatever that roll is to your AC. So that is pretty powerful with a potential
That's
plus
actually-
8 to your
that
AC
can
at
be
level
strong.
3.
So
Yeah, that can be, not always.
I'm gonna say, I think that ability is really cool at low levels.
Yeah,
When you start getting to high levels, that
it
shit
doesn't
falls off
matter as
so
much.
fast.
Even if you get a plus 8, you're talking with a barb having like probably a 19 AC.
and let's
Well,
put
the thing of it
way.
with this, that I like though, is that the verbiage says, like, if a creature you can see within 10 feet of you hits you with an attack roll,
Mm,
it's not one of those roll it before you know the outcome.
Right.
It's if it hits you, you can
you can
take 8
choose
from
to,
it. So you
yeah,
could see, like, that it just barely hit you,
and you could decide not. Yeah,
and you
But
can
like,
apply that bonus post that hit.
Yeah, so like I think again, low levels, I think that's really cool. But I think
Yeah.
around level 5 is when you start getting, a little bit of magical weapons, especially if you're a melee class. So it's probably
That
start
leads
getting
me
them.
into the Bestial Soul, where it builds off of what was just built.
wait.
So
Well,
before
let
you
me,
make any assumptions
finish
about
my
magical
point up real quick.
weapons,
Yeah, let me finish my point. I'm thinking that I don't know it's gonna come up. But I don't. Like it gets to a point where, like, I think the tail is, I think, the most viable at that point, because it's just, if your tank can go use your tail attacks and never be able to be hit, right? But it gets to a point where the damage you're doing with your beast weapons just doesn't keep up the damage you can do with a normal weapon. And that's my only gripe about this feature.
well, here's where it's gonna change a little bit.
Oh,
Go
please.
for it, Brady.
with the Bestial Soul, which you get at 6th level, the power within you increasing causes your natural weapons from the beast form to count as magical for purposes of overcoming resistance and immunities to non-magical attacks and damage. You can also alter your form to adapt to your surroundings. So when you finish a long or short rest, you get to choose one of the following benefits, which lasts until your next short or long rest, when you get to choose again. You can gain a swimming speed equal to your walking speed and gain the ability to breathe underwater. Or you could gain a climbing speed equal to your walking speed, meaning you're allowed to climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without any ability checks
So
necessary.
essentially, spider climb.
And the last option you can choose from is when you jump, you can make an athletics check and extend your jump by a number of feet equal to the check's total. You can make this special check only once per turn, but once per turn is still a lot when you can then, if it's an athletics check and you're going to say you're probably going to have proficiency in athletics, that could potentially be a pretty lengthy added jump distance every turn.
Once per turn is pretty frequently.
It's
a lot
fairly
of it, you
frequently,
see
but
it.
how often are you jumping in combat? It's useful outside of combat if you need to cover like grounds and stuff like that. But once again, you need to take a short or a long rest to change it.
Now,
Climbing and swimming would be more useful more often, in my
Educate me
opinion.
real quick. Is for the magical damage, do you get a pick, or is that some of the D&D or the D&D?
What do you mean
What do you
magical
mean?
damage? It
When you're
counts as a
called to
magical weapon.
Yeah,
What-
they just
What
automatically
type
count.
of damage?
It's still your
No,
slashing
it's
and your
still
piercing,
yeah.
but they count
It's
as
just-
magical weapons, so you're dealing the full amount of damage if a
So
creature
they
is
can
resistant.
never be resistant.
Correct.
Unless a creature has resistance to those, including magical resistance.
Right, but they would need to be able to include the magical resistance. Cause
Yeah, it would be worded in there that they resist magical.
While that is cool, I still don't know if that makes up for the damage you could just do with your weapons.
it does if you don't have a magical axe by this point. And at level 6, you might not have a magical axe.
I mean, fair enough, but you also run to a point of, like, it's level 6. Unless you're getting near the end of your campaign, if this is more of a long form campaign, you're not going to run into a ton of damage effect with those kinds of resistances.
Fair.
I mean,
Alright,
alright, moving on.
At higher levels, you're gonna run into a lot of creatures with resistance.
With that resistance, yeah. So you'll need a magical weapon to be able to deal with that.
I mean,
But
well,
I still
mean,
can give Jack his point.
Yeah.
You know, it's that it doesn't.
I would like to
quite
see it
keep up, I don't
scale.
feel like. Yeah,
I would
it
like
doesn't
to see it
scale as much
scale.
as I'd like.
this so far seems like a class that's super strong up to like maybe I don't know what the 10th level skill is, up to the 10th level, and then it drops
So
off.
this 10th level ability is, yeah, it's something. It's called Infectious Fury, and starting at 10th level, when you hit a creature with any of your natural weapons while you're raging, you curse the target, and the target needs to succeed on a Wisdom saving throw, which is 8 plus your con plus your proficiency. So you're not having to build into anything else than you normally would to have that DC. And then on a failed save, you get to choose one of the following effects. Either the target must use its reaction to make a melee attack against another creature that you can see, so you get to choose which creature it attacks, or it just takes 2d12 psychic damage.
Okay, that psychic damage is nice. There is some things that resist it. I do like the ability to use
Is there
your
a bonus
to
action?
That
Waste.
is every single time you hit a creature
Yeah.
with your natural weapons.
yeah.
So you can do your normal
Yep.
weapon attack with your claws or tail or bite.
You
and
can
then
use-
do 2d12
Hold.
psychic on top of it.
Hold. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. There's a limit to how much you can use it.
So, real quick, 'cause it's been a long day. How is proficiency bonus calculated?
Proficiency
Uh,
bonus. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick.
I was gonna say, hey, while he's looking that up, I'll be honest. Like looking at this, the biggest thing in this, that 2d12 psychic is nice. Being able to waste a enemy's reaction though.
Yeah, but they have
Say
to
he's
fail
near-
your wisdom save, and your wisdom
They have to.
save ain't
Yeah,
gonna
they
be
do
great.
have to do that. But once again, 8 plus con plus that, it can be a fairly decently sized.
Well,
like
let's see
depending
how
on
it's
the.
calculated, because 8
Well, Jack,
plus con,
regardless,
which
that's,
is usually max of
regardless,
5
that is like
equals to
13 to
save.
yeah, and then your
That's not a great
proficiency.
save.
Your proficiency typically is 2 to 3 by level 10.
All right, so at level,
I don't know exactly
at,
how it's calculated, but typically.
At level 10, your proficiency bonus is a +4.
Okay, is that +4?
Is
So
that
you
not?
get-
I
okay.
thought that was calculated by stats. Is that just
No, it's per level. Proficiency bonus is
Yeah, it's
per
just-
level.
okay? So 4.
Okay. So
And
for
And then that jumps to
That's
plus
17 or
5
18.
at 13th and +6 at 17th.
so we're talking
Okay, so
a
that gets
potential
pretty
like
strong.
17, which can be hard to make,
And what,
especially even at level 10.
4 to 6, like you get to 7.
And you can use
charges
it
of that?
4 times to at what you can get at 4 times when you get Infectious Fury. At level
What
20
late
you can
game?
use
Late
it
game,
7
How many can you?
7.
Late game 7.
6 at level.
before
Okay,
a
so
short or long
honestly,
rest.
That's
6 at late
kind
game.
of cool. 6. I think
Okay,
it's a
yeah,
cool
6.
ability. I actually like that ability a lot. It's just like, fuck, I can do this now when I hit.
Yeah, which is
Um,
an extra thing that you can add in. I really like being able to waste an enemy's reaction.
Like the
That way your
only
squishy
thing
can get out of range if
I
need be.
don't like about it so far is it's just a circle of Moon Druid in Barbarian form.
Well,
I think like
Well, let's
from the-
let's wrap it up. Let's
Yeah,
wrap it
let's
up
get the
before
last
we get to
piece and
talking
then
about
we'll
it.
yeah, because it does have like origins, and one of them is that you're descended from an archdruid, but that's one of the options. So 14th level, this is your capstone ability for this subclass, is called Call of the Hunt. And at 14th level, the beast within you grows so powerful that you can spread its ferocity to others and gain resilience from them joining your hunt. When you enter your rage, you get to choose a number of other willing creatures you can see within 30 feet of you equal to your constitution modifier, minimum of 1. You gain 5 temporary hit points for each creature that accepts this feature, and until the rage ends, the chosen creatures can use the following benefit once on each of their turns. When the creature hits a target with an attack roll and deals damage to it, the creature gets to roll a d6 and gain a bonus to the damage equal to the number rolled. And you can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest, which at this point when you get this is a plus 5.
5,
Plus
yeah.
5 when you get this. So
That's pretty big.
you're
I'll say
giving,
the capstones on these are actually kind of cool.
you're,
I like
you're
the- I
giving
like
your
the-
allies the ability to add a d6 once per each of their turns.
So, Jack, going back to when you said it doesn't scale too well, this is I think where it
I was
scales.
wrong. I think
Yeah,
it
this is
scales
where it
pretty well.
scales.
I think it's. See,
All All right.
Honestly,
I have.
I didn't know much about this. I think this skill is very low. I think
Yeah.
this.
I think 10th and 14th are very powerful. Having the options that you can choose on short rest and whenever you enter into a rage can help you kind of shift your focus per fight depending on what's like laid out before you. The coolest part of this though for me is honestly the RP potential though. This could be your dude got inflicted with lycanthropy, so you don't actually have to play a lycanthrope.
No, yeah,
This
I don't
dude
know.
just can't quite control it, or this is from he's from a wild people where they've like been guarded by a druid or a witch or what have
They
you.
made a pact to
Yeah.
be able to control
Or maybe
lycanthropy.
you're cursed. Maybe you're cursed by
Yeah,
this.
it's
Right.
cursed by that same.
And some of
witch or
those
something like that. Yeah.
some of those origins are there. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
they've got some
there's-
options. Like one of your parents is a lycanthrope. You've inherited some of the curse.
Yep.
You're descended from an archdruid and inherited the ability to partially change shape. A fey spirit gifted you with the ability. An ancient animal spirit dwells within you, allowing you to walk this path.
Right.
There's some cool origin ideas there too.
Let's think
And-
about it like. Go ahead, Justin.
And there's a lot of potential to this. So I'm gonna go ahead and give out my rating.
Yes.
Go for it.
Wait, but before we do that, because we haven't done the one thing, like the one big thing yet. What main role of the barbarian does this modify, and how well does it do it?
This
Didn't
is
talk
a
about that.
See,
this is a weird one in that it feels more of a.
It feels really cool.
It feels
And
really
that's
cool,
actually-
but it feels more of a support
It's a
tank.
I
very
would
and
say
that's
though-
actually where I'm going with it. That's actually where I was going with my rating. While I like this, I love it from a role-playing perspective. I like being a weird kind of just coming into the fold disguised lived with lycanthropy. Maybe teaming up with a druid again. Barbarians and druids, bread and butter. Like, I could see this being a good kind of off tank with a lot of the barbarians' inherent abilities. But the thing that bumps it down a little bit for me is that it doesn't really enhance the barbarian
hmm
at its
I think it
class, at its
changes
core.
It enhances
it-
one thing about it, and that's just giving
Right.
the magical attacks.
This is just giving a tangential, like, if you want to be a barbarian and you're happy with that and you can't choose a subclass, but you want to do something cool for role playing, like you don't want to enhance the barbarian as much, I think this is good. So I think this could be good in the right campaign.
Right.
I think this is totally viable, and I do think it's fun. I think it plays well. I think the numbers are even there with
Yeah, I think it's a
little
solid
bit
class still.
with very little
Subclass
homebrew
still.
necessary. I want to give this one a B.
Okay.
I think that there are some campaigns where it could be really good, but I don't think it's a good one to apply to all of your campaigns. And I do think that some of what it does kind of, there are other options that can give you some druidy abilities
Right.
a little
you
better,
said
like Ancestral Guardian. I would put this one a little bit behind.
I no, see I think when I look at this, I just see a barbarian that's an animal, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't really add anything special. It's an animal. He turns you into a kind of a support damage dealer.
Yeah, I like
But
at
it
the
gets to a
end.
point
Go for it,
where
Jack,
I
sorry.
would just think about it, where like, cool, I'm shape shifting into an animal. But at that point, I'd rather just play a druid.
Yeah, but
I'd be
Jack,
able to
you're
spellcast,
you got-
I'd be
yeah,
able to
you
do
got
a
it.
lot of the things.
Not
that he's
everyone wants
doing.
to spellcast.
Yeah, I know, but like, I'd be able to do a lot of the things I'm doing, like with the barbarian features with spells, and I can pick what animal I want to be. I can fly. I can do all this stuff. And when I run out of my health in my animal form, I just change back to my normal form, with the exact same health I had when I changed back, making it a better tank than this class.
This is mainly if, like Ben said, you don't want to play a spellcaster, but you want to
Yeah,
have animal
but you want to
effects.
have like an animal kind of a range to it.
Oh,
Because
it's
full
cool.
disclosure, spellcasting's fun. I don't really give a shit for it. I'll be honest. There's a reason Burry doesn't cast many spells.
Just real quick before you go, I'm just gonna give my ranking. I'm gonna agree with Justin. I think it's gonna be, the highest B class, but I can't.
I'm cool with putting it as a B.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
I'm good on that one.
It's good. Even like
It's really
it's
cool.
it's good. It's really cool. It just, the only reason I can't put it higher is because it just doesn't change your base barbarian.
You're a barbarian
in a way that is in a way that is effectual to that barbarian.
It doesn't make the
mainstay.
barbarian any stronger. It just changes how you play him.
Ben, you want to go on and start with the berserker?
Sure. So the berserker, this is really a lot of changes to your rage, like the rage mechanic. For example, at 3rd level, you can go into a frenzied rage. Caveat to this: when your rage ends, you do suffer a level of exhaustion. However, for the duration of your rage, you can make a single melee weapon attack as a bonus action on each of your turns after this one. So, an extra attack on your bonus action, which is useful.
And at 3rd level, getting a second attack.
Right. And here's the thing. As a barbarian, your bonus action isn't used all that often, unless you have a subclass feature for it specifically. A lot of barbarian things come at just when you hit, or stuff like that.
Level of exhaustion is a big caveat,
that's a
though.
big
Before we move on, remind me, how does a barbarian one either get forced out of their rage, and what level can it stop at, and how
it
long
forced
can the
out
rage
of-
last?
Well, we'll get to that in just a second. At least if there's a level where they can overcome it. So the ways that you can get forced out of rage are being put to sleep, calm emotions, certain mind control abilities, stuff like that. Being knocked unconscious. If you don't have persistent rage and you don't attack something in a round,
Or you don't get
Your rage
or you
ends.
don't get targeted by an attack.
or you don't get targeted by attack, your rage ends. So if you don't hit or get
hold
hit in a
monster,
round,
right?
hold monster as long as nothing hits it and it doesn't hit you for the next turn would end rage, as long as it's considered
And
a
a
monster.
lot of things have that ability.
Right. However, getting into that to level 6, mindless rage. Beginning at 6th level, you cannot be charmed or frightened while raging. If you are charmed or frightened when you enter your rage, the effect is suspended for the duration, keeping you in rage so nothing can knock you out, which is actually fairly useful. I do like that ability quite a lot, and at 6th level, things start to have that casting ability that Jack's talking about, where they can knock you out of rage a lot.
See, now my thing is there a time limit that you can rage? Is there a time limit where this is the maximum amount of time you can rage?
Let me look it up real quick.
I was just
Because
saying, someone
that
have to look
is
that up. I
what
don't know
is
off the
going
top of
to
my head.
matter for this class being higher in
Rage.
any way.
In battle, you fight with a primal ferocity on your turn. You can enter rage as a bonus action. While raging, you gain the following benefits if you aren't wearing heavy armor. You have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. When you make a melee weapon attack using strength, you gain a bonus to the damage roll that increases as you gain levels as a barbarian. And you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Your rage lasts for 1 minute.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So after a minute, you're exhausted no matter what. That is terrible.
So
Well,
that's
you don't
10
have
rounds
to.
of
You don't
combat,
have to
though.
choose to go into a frenzy. You can.
Yeah, you
can
don't.
choose-
You don't.
But
Yeah,
it's the main it's the main feature of the class.
which
It's
is
the
fair.
reason you pick
Yeah.
this class.
Well,
That's hard.
Oddly enough,
Yeah.
this class doesn't build off its frenzy.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wait, yeah.
but like, I get like for like the mindless rage, it's cool, right? But that's not something that would make this class more viable than any other sub.
Ben, you want to move on to the 10th level
Yeah,
ability then?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's
you
yeah.
do that.
Intimidating presence. So at 10th level, you have to spend your action to do this, but you can frighten someone with your menacing presence. When you do so, one creature within 30 feet of you that can see or hear you must succeed a wisdom saving throw, DC equal to 8
As
plus
an
proficiency plus charisma.
So it's an action.
And it is an action, or be frightened of you until the end of their next turn. On
Your
subsequent
next
turns,
turn.
you can on subsequent turns you can use your action to extend the duration of this effect on the frightened creature. The effect ends if the creature is out of line of sight or more than 60 feet away from you. And if it succeeds, it cannot be targeted again for 24 hours. Not super strong, mainly because of the charisma bonus. Being able to frighten something is useful, but because it costs your action, that's
Usually when you look at this stuff, you look at but it takes a bonus action to do it. Everything's vying for the bonus action. This takes your motherfucking action. As a barbarian, if you're
Which
not
means
attacking
that
with
then
your
if you're
actions, barbarian,
if you're
doing
attacking,
your
if you want to keep your rage, then you have to
Yeah,
use
and then you
frenzy,
lose your
which
rage,
means
and
you're
then you
getting
become exhausted.
I will say this
Yeah.
subclass did come out of the player's handbook, and the player's handbook has the absolute worst Barbarian subclasses, except
This-
for possibly one of the best as well. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Right.
Overall, they
Um,
suck.
And then finally your capstone before we get too far away from what we're doing. Starting at 14th level, when you take damage from a creature that is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature.
Yeah,
That doesn't
Fair.
help. That's
a reaction.
Why-
it's,
why not
it's
take-
a good ability. but
Why
it
not
doesn't
take
make up for
Sentinel?
The rest of the shit.
Why not take
It-
Sentinel?
Well, so Sentinel is if they attack someone else, not you.
Well, yeah, but
Um,
regardless, it's
Yeah.
it
Which is why I
is
get
more
pissed when you
useful as
guys
a
walk
tank.
away from me, by
Yeah.
the way, which you do all the fucking time.
Bury should never be in the. It should never be in the.
Yeah, when
thick
Agdar just left me at one point, I'm like, dude!
that I
Never
can do nothing.
Moving on, that's another thing. Never mind.
All right,
but,
what are you guys giving this one?
Honestly, D. Yeah,
D.
I was right
It's-
there on
It,
top.
it has
Its
to be a
main
very
ability-
specific campaign with a lot of long
not
rests.
even
Otherwise, your
even
exhaustion
that.
is just going to
Honestly,
catch up.
Dude, I might give it an F. I think it's a terrible class.
I think-
it is terrible.
You're relying on your
There is
rage
an
for
E
a
tier.
lot.
What's that?
I'm
It's
not giving
between
this an E.
D and F. It's an E.
Give it an E.
Yeah, give it an E.
I don't know what
It's
the
not-
fuck that be, but give it an E.
Yeah,
All
Like,
right.
no,
He
man,
is
that's
like
just-
exempted.
Ew. That's like the
We're giving it a
the
grade.
first
We gotta give it a
ability
D or an
sounds
F.
So cool. If you get that ability, take out the exhaustion, it's an A tier.
The exhaustion absolutely ruins it. That's why it's a D or an F. I think
There,
it
there
detracts
should be
from
like a
what.
con saving throw with it before you.
Or
just
or something like that. If
automatically
you
Yeah.
can
exhaust.
home brew this a little bit, it can be.
it
so
could be
cool.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
But God, does it suck as is.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't care
Nothing
where we
builds
put it.
on it. Everything's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
low.
I
All
got
the
it.
things that are cool about it destroy you.